Thanks for joining us with our third episode of Cardinal Film Fights. I'm your judge and host, Stuart Elmore, and we're just going to get right into it. Next to me, we have three awesome fighters. First to my left is Mark Rollins.
Hi, I'm Mark Rollins. I'm a theater education major, a sophomore, and I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome. We have Dylan Query.
Hi, I'm Dylan, and I'm a TCOM major, and I'm really happy to be here.
Awesome. And then we have Bodie Van Winkle, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Good,
Yep.
I said it right.
Like you said, my name is Bodie Van Winkle. I'm a biology education major. So let's talk about some film.
Awesome. Great. I was about to think that's like really far off. Because I said it was like a TCOM major. All right. And then fact checker, we have Vaughn Storm.
I'm Vaughn Storm. I'm a TCOM and entrepreneurship double major, and I'm going to be checking facts for the debaters tonight.
Awesome. Sweet. And we're going to get straight into it. Now, I just want to let you guys know that we have a 60-second introduction where you'll get time to state your own case of your choice when we say the rounds. Then we'll have a 5-minute open forum after each introduction. And then after the open forum, you'll each get a 30-second conclusion. Is everyone pretty good on the rules? Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yep. Sweet. Now, going on to our first round is Best Serial Killer. And we're going to start with Mark going this way. So, Mark, whenever you're ready.
Awesome. For my best serial killer, I picked Norman Bates from the movie Psycho. It's based on a real, true Wisconsin murderer named Ed Gein. He's a tragic yet despised figure. He is ranked number 2 on the American Film Institute's list of top 100 film heroes and villains, right above Darth Vader. And if you can beat Darth Vader, you got something going for you. He also ranks number 4 on Premiere's list of 100 greatest movie characters of all time. And in 2008, Empire magazine selected Bates as one of the 100 greatest movie characters.
Awesome. Okay. And let's go on to Dylan.
All right, so the character I chose was Patrick Bateman from American Psycho. American Psycho is a critically acclaimed film about a serial killer who showcases a very intelligent and immersive serial killer that a lot of psychologists have come to recognize as a very, I guess he just encompasses like that whole idea of a serial killer that is smart enough to get away with multiple murders. Psychologists have talked about how he is one of the most intelligent and accurate portrayal of an actual serial killer. American Psycho scored a 7.6 out of 10 on IMDb. And also won awards such as Best Actor, Best Screenplay, and Best Leading Role.
Okay, sweet. And Bodie.
All right. I chose Hannibal Lecter, yet we all chose Psycho Killers. He ranked number 1 in the American Film Institute, beating Norman Bates and Darth Vader. He is... one of the things I think is really drawing about his character is that he is untouchably powerful in a way. He's very mysterious, yet he can peer through your soul. So he has this very uncanny valley-esque vibe about him that I don't think a lot of other serial killers have. Most other serial killers, hearing voices or are crazy or whatever. But this serial killer is very intelligent and he's very calculating. And because of this, I think that makes him quite a step above the rest and a very unique serial killer. Also, the dichotomy with how funny and how witty he is really works well with how absolutely scary he is and how he can make someone swallow his own tongue by talking to them without having... Well, I'm done.
Okay, awesome. And now, guys, we're going to go to a 5-minute open forum, so fight it out.
Awesome. I'm going to start with Hannibal Lecter, because you say all this stuff. It's very true, but it's also, he was in Silence of the Lambs for a total of 16 minutes, and I kind of think that a lot of the suspense and fear that surrounds him is provided by other characters than Anthony Hopkins' performance itself. Don't get me wrong, I think he did a great performance, but I think he had a lot of help from Jodie Foster's reactions and from and he wasn't even the main antagonist in that movie. He was, he kind of was like a secondary protagonist.
Absolutely, the main antagonist was Buffalo Bill, and Buffalo Bill actually killed more people than what Hannibal Lecter did in that movie. I think the kill count for Lecter was 2-3 people, and that's like just barely meeting the mark of being considered a serial killer.
Exactly, he's a wannabe.
I would like to rebuttal your 16-minute thing. he became the most iconic serial killer in just 16 minutes. And he wasn't even the antagonist of the film. And he didn't even have to kill that many people. But because of the acting and because of the context surrounding him, he did a phenomenal job. A character isn't just the actor. The context and the way the character's written into the film is true. So when you tell me that the context somehow devalues Hannibal Lecter, I have to react by saying that context matters. And doing that within 16 minutes, and the fact that we're discussing him right now, within just a 16-minute period, is incredibly impressive.
It's a very good rebuttal. I want to hear like any of your thoughts against other people's choices as well.
All right, well, let's see. Norman Bates and Patrick Bates?
Patrick Bateman.
Patrick Bateman? Ooh, I'm showing my little lack of movie knowledge there. Well, they're both very, what I consider normal, almost cookie-cutter serial killers, which is iconic, of course, but they're just crazy. I mean, it's true that they killed a lot of people, and yours got away with a lot of them. But when you really boil it down, they're not all that unique of serial killers. Sure, they have their own little quirks or whatever, but they're still crazy, and the fear from them comes from how crazy they are.
What do you guys have to say about
I
that?
disagree with that because I think Norman Bates kind of wrote the book on cinema serial killer portrayals because he was seen throughout most of the movie as a mild-mannered, harmless as a fly character, and then the big reveal at the end is that he is through like a deranged Oedipus complex. Theater education knowledge shown right there. Through a deranged Oedipus complex, he's killing these women who are tempting him, which was a novel idea at the time. And his work has held, the character of Norman Bates has held up in things other than Psycho as well. He's in the critically acclaimed TV series Bates Motel, which has been renewed for a 5th season, while Hannibal Lecter, who also has his own TV show, was canceled just after 2 seasons. And even though there was the 1998 remake of Psycho, Vince Vaughn's character portrayal of Norman Bates was like the only one who wasn't like critically panned. Like the director and the leading actress got nominations for Golden Raspberries, but Vince Vaughn's portrayal of Norman Bates did not, which I think speaks more to the character of Norman Bates than to even Vince Vaughn's portrayal.
Now, Dylan, I want to hear more about your thoughts.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and say though I watched Psycho, not too long ago for the first time, and one thing that really showed about the entire movie was it was a little bland, in a sense. Yes, the whole overall idea was very simplistic, whereas Patrick Bateman in American Psycho was a lot more complex. So Patrick killed indiscriminately. He had no preferral of victim, and he had no consistent method of killing. And that's why he was so great, because that's how he was able to get away with most of what he did, was because every time he killed somebody, it was always in a different way. And he also was very one thing I will say about all 3 of the characters we have chosen is that all of them possessed no supernatural abilities. So like I'm really happy that we didn't choose like Freddy Krueger or something like that.
Because the original question was like best serial killer, monster / ghost, or any horror
Absolutely.
antagonist.
I'm going to interject a thing. You said that Patrick Bateman does not kill in a consistent manner, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that violates the definition of a serial killer, because I think they have to have a methodical and consistent modus operandi.
Like eating livers.
Yes. With fava beans and a nice Chianti.
I think you're wrong there. I think it's just killing is the serial part.
Okay, wow, really good open forum. Now let's start Bodhi on this end going this way with our 30-second conclusion.
All right. Well, if you don't believe me, you might want to believe the American Film Institute with how great Anthony Hopkins portrayed Hannibal Lecter, how it still sends shivers down our spine after all these years, and how his untouchable air makes him one of the most mysterious, yet at the same time, penetrating character that I think I've ever seen in film. So he can see you, but you can't see him. He is the one-way mirror serial killer.
And it's just penetrating, makes us laugh or something. Okay, whatever.
We are
Dylan, conclusion.
Okay. So Patrick Bateman is the best serial killer due to how realistic and complex his persona was displayed. He lives inside of his own world and understands that only he understands. And the reason he's so great is he actually gets away with all of his crimes, and nobody knows what happened to these people, the dead hookers, his colleagues, the homeless people. They have no idea. So, and the fact that we were left wondering if he committed those crimes at all is why he's so great.
Wow. And Mark.
I think Norman Bates has written the book, has kind of set the stage for all these cinematic serial killers to hit mainstream popularity. Patrick Bateman is a clear reference to Norman Bates. He pays homage, with his last name, Bateman, obviously. And he has remained, you argue that he's simplistic, but he has remained relevant because he has gone on to sport a remake and also a popular TV show that has received continual success.
Okay, wow, and that's it. Real quick, Vaughn, any cleanup on any of that?
Nothing other than what Mark asked me to clarify, which, no, the definition of serial killer does not seem to require any sort of pattern.
Okay.
I believe it's just like 3 in like a month or something.
The definition varies, but the FBI says 2 or more murders committed as separate events, usually but not always, by one offender acting alone.
Oh, 2 or more.
Okay.
So, wow. Lecter just
real quick,
barely
behind
made
the
that.
cameras, quick thoughts. I think I have a pretty strict ruling on this, but I just want to hear your thoughts.
I think Hannibal Lecter is a really good one because I really liked your rebuttal about how you said like 16 minutes and he became so iconic.
Yeah.
And like just the way he makes you feel and like he's so like, oh, like.
Yeah, but no, I totally get exactly what you mean. Yeah, that was kind of a huge, awesome plus on your end that really got me. And yeah, I think without a doubt, I think after going through that, yeah, Bodhi, you seem the most prepared in terms of like battling the rebuttals on your end. You had that very awesome, like when they were both like ganging up on you on that like 16 minutes, but you said, yeah, and he's that popular. And it's like, I just got that threw you right over the top for me. So Bodhi, you're getting the first place point for that. In terms of you two, Dylan, I just didn't get enough. Yeah. And it was just, you were getting there. You were like on the track, especially in your conclusion, which was very well done. But overall, like in his conclusion, he just kind of beat you with that last point he threw out there where it was a clear reference to Bates, and he wrote the book on cinema. He's still on top, beating Darth Vader. Just the extra points. I got to give Mark second place, and with Dylan with third place. So, but let's just be honest, these are all fantastic picks that you guys saw. So that was really awesome. Yeah. So okay, so we're gonna go on to our second round. This one is best non-horror Halloween movie. You know those like ABC Family Freeform films that show like films like that. So we're gonna start with Bodhi this time, going this way for introductions.
All right, I have a very interesting choice this time, which is Hocus Pocus. And it's not very critically acclaimed, but it does have a 71% audience approval on Rotten Tomatoes and is a really fun movie. And when I want a non-horror Halloween movie, I want a non-horror Halloween movie. I want to sit down with my friends. I want to watch it. I want to laugh and have a good time. And the actresses that play the witches do a very good job of portraying a funny aura while still being just very slightly creepy. And of course, that's not for everyone, but it has withstood the test of time for a very long time now. It even has some deeper meaning. It has some great musical numbers. The hero has to use wit to defeat the witches because they are much more powerful than him, but he uses his knowledge of technology and the anachromatic nature of his situation to be able to defeat them, and I think that is an underrated point of it. And there's actual character development within the witches as they have to face their own mortality.
Awesome, really good. And let's go Dylan next.
Okay. Movie I chose was Edward Scissorhands. Edward Scissorhands is one of, if not the best, non-horror Halloween movie due to its dark, edgy attitude that represents Hollywood or the Halloween perfectly, but also utilizes sympathy and empathy to help put the viewer in Edward's shoes. So it's got those Halloween elements, but it is also a little lighthearted in a sense, which is pretty great. It came out on December 7th, 1990, so I know what a lot of people thought it was a Christmas movie. And in fact, it's actually transformed into a Halloween movie. Even though it came out during Christmas time and it had the whole Christmas theme to go along with it, it started being shown on Halloween specials, and it generally became utilized as a Halloween special movie.
Okay, really good. Now, Mark.
Awesome. I picked It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, which I think takes all the positive aspects of those two movies and cranks it up into 12th gear. It got an 8.2 out of 10 on IMDb. It's got 4.5 out of 5 on Amazon. It's celebrating its 50th year anniversary on the 27th of this month. It's instantly recognizable. I mean, we all know lines like, I got a rock. And, it's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. I mean, so it is critically acclaimed as well received by the audiences. It's even less creepy than Hocus Pocus. And it's had that longevity. I mean, 50 years, and it's still airing on ABC like every month.
Okay. Was that all you got?
It's really cool too.
All right. Well, it's fine. All right, now let's go on to our 5-minute open forum, guys.
Okay, I want to start off by saying, Charlie Brown, really?
Charlie
Okay,
Brown.
never mind.
Snap.
Okay, going to Hocus Pocus. All right. So
I'm
you
under the
mentioned creepy, okay, and I don't know how you meant it, but generally that movie was creepy.
Halloween.
Yeah, but not in that sense. The whole plot itself was underwhelming, and it was peppered with pedophilia.
Oh, wait.
All right, throughout the entire thing.
Maybe you're projecting.
Okay, so
That
in
was a
this
personal
movie,
jab.
I'm sorry.
That was a
Do
personal
not
jab.
give me points. That was ad hominem, and I apologize.
Don't apologize.
Take what you can get.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so Edward Scissorhands, though. Let's go back. Edward Scissorhands, a Tim Burton. I mean, Tim Burton's become a parody of himself, kind of. I mean, okay, it's kind of hitting all the checklists. I think he seriously looked. He's like, got Johnny Depp, check. Got Danny Elfman, check. Pale skin, check. Gothic, check. I mean, like, of all the Tim Burton movies, I mean, Nightmare Before Christmas was actually much more critically acclaimed. Why did you pick Edward Scissorhands over Nightmare Before Christmas?
Because Nightmare Before Christmas was actually one of the ones that I thought of, but I think Edward Scissorhands is a little bit more. To be honest, I just didn't want to pick an animated movie because.
Hey, Dylan, you talk closer to the mic.
Yeah, sorry. I just didn't want to pick like any sort of animated movie or anything like that. I wanted to choose something that actually had actors.
But nothing is not like unscarier than an animated movie. I think we can agree. I mean, Edward Scissorhands. If you just look at that movie poster, it's like the zombie guy with like scissors for hands. That's like Freddy Krueger type stuff.
Real fast. I don't want to gang up on Dylan here, but I do have one thing to say about Edward Scissorhands.
But I do want to gang up on Dylan here.
A lot of, I think, the draw of Edward Scissorhands is like a lot of the depth and stuff behind the character and whatnot of that. But my thing
Absolutely.
is, it's a King Kong Frankenstein remake. It's a theme that is tired, that has been done over and over again, except you add a dreamy-eyed boy. And why not dull the scissors or get some kind of medical professional? If your movie can be fixed by chopping up cardboard boxes for 20 minutes, it might not be that great of a movie.
However, all right, Hocus Pocus is based. You said I was I was based off of that. Okay, Hocus Pocus is based like how much people like it. It's based off of nostalgia. Okay,
Oh,
that's the
I
only
completely
reason
agree with that.
people like
Oh, yeah.
Hocus Pocus.
Like Hocus
Even-
Pocus
but
goes.
nostalgia is
If you watch that movie now, all right, the only reason you like it is because you remember watching it when you were 7 years old.
Hocus Pocus is like I call it the Wonderful Life effect. It's a one.
Sorry, I'm in the bullshit splash.
Nice. Oh, props.
You brought
I smuggled in
goggles. I just looked up and saw goggles.
Tell anyone.
No, he didn't.
I know. Are you wearing goggles because you're in too deep? Bow, 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 bow. Anywho,
One of the things that killed Hocus Pocus for me was all right, for one, the main character had to be a virgin because only a virgin could bring back the three witches. However, was the scene
You have a problem with virgins?
was the scene where he was like spooning the pillow and whispering, "Allison, you're so soft." I don't think that was necessary to really get across that idea that he was a virgin.
I mean,
No, it wasn't necessary,
Hocus-
but when you're sitting down with a whole bunch of friends, you're like, what? And it makes it fun and awesome.
I want to go back to the nostalgia factor because I agree with Dylan heavily on that. It's the Stockholm syndrome of movies.
right.
If you stick with
Now,
a movie
I'm not
long enough, you're
defending
going to grow
nostalgia.
an
I'm not-
affinity for it. It's like It's a Wonderful Life effect. It's a Wonderful Life was critically panned when it first came out, but they kept showing it on TV, and so eventually people are like, It's a Wonderful Life is life. It's like Hocus
Arguably,
Pocus
the same
is
thing
love.
can be said about Charlie Brown. I think I remember
I'm
watching that
defending
same
nostalgia.
movie every single year: preschool, kindergarten, elementary school, middle school,
But
high school.
The
At
difference
least one
is
teacher
the
showed that
difference
during
is
Halloween.
it's the
Nostalgia-
Great Pumpkin. Charlie Brown also has the critical acclaim to back up the audience.
Okay,
It can't even be considered a movie though. It's
I like the
25 minutes.
I
It's
like
more of a
the
short
hey
film than
I
it is
like
an
the
actual movie.
nostalgia argument. I
Horse
want to hear what your
Okay,
argument against that is.
All right. So here's the thing. In order for something to be nostalgic, part of it is it has to be damn good. 71% audience review is damn good. Now, like you don't just randomly be like, I like that chair. Now I'm nostalgic about that chair. That chair has to have something that makes you nostalgic for it in the first place. So saying that something is only good because it's nostalgic.
What do you guys say about that, though?
It only
I
scored a
disagree.
6.7 out of 10 on IMDb.
Yes, 6.7 and 30%
explain
on
that.
Rotten Tomatoes.
I can explain
30%.
that.
is pretty
Also,
terrible.
you go to you don't have to be nostalgic.
Okay. Wow, that was great. So, I totally did not see the goggles coming. I'll be honest. I think we start this way and go that way for conclusions now. So let's start with you, Mark.
Okay, so like I said, it's the Great Pumpkin. Charlie Brown kind of hits the trifecta of family-friendly Halloween movies. It's critically acclaimed. It's got longevity behind it. It's got popular culture recognizability behind it, and it's also got audience support behind it. And I think if you combine all those three things, you'll realize even though it's short, even though it's an adaptation of a comic, it hits all the marks for what a family-friendly Halloween movie needs to be.
Okay, and Dylan.
Okay, so my argument against Hocus Pocus is it never really figures out what it wants to be. It's not scary enough to be horror. It's not fast enough to be adventure. It's not funny enough to be comedy. I don't think it actually established itself very well, and it doesn't really. The whole plot itself was underwhelming. Charlie Brown. I don't know if I would actually technically call that a movie because it's only like 25 minutes long, and it's as tedious as watching Caillou, honestly. Edward Scissorhands is a lot better.
You have something against bald kids? Is that what this
Okay,
is?
Yes,
okay,
that's
okay.
exactly what it is.
Now let's do to Bodhi.
I think I know exactly what Hocus Pocus wanted to be, and that was awesome. First, it has the funniness. It has everything that you want on a superficial level of a movie, which is good acting, which is great. I think the plot is great. I think there's a lot of subplots going on about people's emotions and character development, but it also has a lot more in-depth thing. It has a constant theme of mortality, and that when the sun rises, they are going to die, and you sympathize with the witches to an extent. So it's a very more complicated movie than critics give it credit for.
Okay. Wow. That was a heck of a round, guys. So, okay, let's go straight to Vaughn for any facts. I know there were some thrown out there.
They were correct about the the ratings and everything that people brought up. Everything seemed to check out that I caught.
Okay. Yeah, Marissa, you seem to have something.
Yes. Okay, so for holiday movies, don't we watch them because they are nostalgic to us? Christmas movies, whatever you watch when you're younger, you always watch around Christmas because it gives you that same feeling that you had when you were younger.
So is that an argument helping his or because okay.
Even with Charlie Brown.
You guys are just you don't like
The thing with, I will say, from somebody who has debated a couple times, I felt there wasn't
that's
a
Nick.
whole,
He's debated.
Hi. There wasn't a whole lot thrown Mark's way except for the nostalgia factor. And the other thing too is longevity when it comes to like television specials. When it comes to movies, longevity does mean a whole lot. And Charlie Brown, 50 years is ridiculous. And I don't think Edward Scissorhands has enough following behind it to give it the win. And I think Hocus Pocus lacks the rating. So I think when you combine those two factors, plus nostalgia works for Charlie Brown, I feel like you have to give it to Mark, coupled with the fact there wasn't a whole lot thrown at it besides the nostalgia factor and the time which...
Interesting. Okay, I would hear more people. Like, what do you think, Allison?
I would disagree with that just a little. I really like the point that Dylan made that it can't really be called a movie. It's like a short. Like, it's like 25 minutes long, and the category was not family friendly. movie.
Okay.
The category was best non-horror.
I don't want to like start a debate behind cameras, but like
The debate.
no, but
Behind
no, I
the
just wanted to
debates.
confirm
Behind the
and
scenes
gather all your guys' thoughts that you got too, because I pretty much got all those arguments too. I just wanted to nail down to what really stuck with people the most. Okay, I need to talk to the mic when I'm like looking at this. So yeah, like I say, the biggest arguments against Hocus Pocus was the nostalgic factor. That was the biggest that I had against, other than Dylan, you had the more attacks against Bodhi, and then Mark, you pretty much jumped on the train when he said the nostalgia factor and you joined onto that. And other than that, I didn't get too much arguments against Hocus Pocus. Dylan, you made the biggest effort to do so with, the plot having some weird themes. And that was a good joke that you pulled out right there about whatever projecting, but either or, it was still it was. But no, I mean, you're looking at it in another way. I mean, I think if that's something that somebody gets off of that theme that's happening, that's something that I listen to. And so either or, I still think I still think Bodhi didn't get as much arguments against him, while the ratings are down on critically. It did help that, he defended the nostalgia argument, which was the only one hurting his. And so because you defended that very well, I got to give you the first place point once again. So Bodhi's going to get the first place again. Now, in terms of second and third, I think that the argument that you guys went back and forth with each other very well, but one thing that I think confirmed my spot was when you were jumping on the train of, oh yeah, yours is just nostalgia. Then you said, yeah, well, yours is too. And like, he kind of pulled that back around on you, and it's like, oh yeah, because like I said, 50 years, and I didn't hear, he defended his very well, but I didn't hear much of yours. So Dylan is going to get the second place point on that with marketing third. So does that seem pretty good? Nick's shaking his head, but it's all good.
Also, everybody is being way too civilized. I want blood.
Honestly, I love this format. Like this is amazing. You guys are awesome. You're so funny and so like
Civilized.
Thank you.
but it's
So sweet,
great.
give me diabetes.
Okay, so Vaughn, do you think that was good?
Yeah.
Okay. Going on to round 3. This is an interesting question because one of you is arguing a very interesting answer.
Oh shit.
Sorry, I can't get involved. I'm not biased, guys. But this one is most overrated horror film. Now I'm asking this because horror film as a genre gets undercut by critics all the time. Like my rating is, if it's a 7 on IMDb, it's a 9 because you always add 2 to a horror film because it's always going to get 2 points lower than it deserves. So, but now this is like what horror film is overplayed and overloved than what it deserves. So let's start with Dylan on introductions.
Okay, so most overrated film, The Shining. Okay, from bad acting to terrible sequencing, this overrated horror film does not allow for the development of its characters and carries on with its melodramatic theme Stanley Kubrick called suspenseful. Okay, the entire movie did not adapt well from the original book, and I will also include that the entire movie was a giant drag.
Wow, pretty big words. Okay, I think we started Bodhi first in the introduction, so let's go from Dylan to Mark. So you go ahead in introduction.
Oh, me. This is me.
Yep.
Awesome. I picked Paranormal Activity. It's very mainstream. I mean, I haven't seen the movie all the way through, but I know what people are saying about it. And I checked the facts, and like what I've seen and what the facts, they don't match up, because it's 6.3 out of 10 on IMDb, 83% on Rotten Tomatoes, 68% on Metacritic. And it's a lot of waiting. I mean, it's seriously, somebody took a home camera, pointed it at their bed, and then people are expected to sit through this. I mean, gosh, I've seen home videos that are better at creating thrills and excitement. Michael Carter of The Breeze cited its cheap jump scares, even cheaper found footage style. David Stratton, film critic of the Australian TV series at the movie, said it was extremely unthrilling, very obvious, very cliched. We've seen it all before. Mark Savlov of the Austin Chronicle stated that it was an excruciatingly tedious YouTube gag cleverly marketed to go viral. And Bill Gabron of Pop Matters ranked it as the second worst horror film of all time, stating, waste of time in both concept and execution.
Wow. All right, and Bodhi.
All right. So, what are the 2 qualifications of something being overrated? One, it has to be rated highly. Two, it has to not at all match those ratings. And the movie that I think most reflects this is The Babadook. Now, The Babadook is a good movie when you talk about it reflecting in the main character's mind and how it's a metaphor for depression and all that and yada yada yada. But it's boring. It is very boring and does not deserve what was it? Like an 83% or an 83%, you can fact check that, on Rotten Tomatoes. It is very, very highly rated and doesn't deliver at all. In fact, there's stock sound effects. The book itself Babadook, is more scary than the Babadook when it's in the movie. So I have to say that it was incredibly underwhelming, incredibly slow, but everyone loves it, and I think it's pretension.
Okay, now let's go on a 5-minute open forum.
Okay, so I think since I'm gonna have the hardest argument to push forward here with The Shining, I'm gonna start by talking about The Shining, and I would really like you two to really hit against this as hard as you can because I have some good arguments here. Okay, so first of all, I want to talk about the awards that this movie won. For one, it won 2 Razzies. Now, if you don't know what a Razzie is, it's an award for being terrible, is what it is.
Wait, The Shining won a Razzie?
The Shining won
That
2
is true.
Razzies.
Well, how does that make it overrated? Isn't that a bad rating?
However, okay,
Overrated means it's over its own rating.
Well, okay, now wait a minute.
no, it's over. I'm arguing
And the-
that it's horrible. I'm arguing that it's horrible.
In the last argument, you said nostalgia was an extremely large factor in non-horror. Are you saying it's not an equally extremely large factor in horror movies?
No, I'm not saying it's an extreme. I think Hannibal. I think Hannibal. What am I talking
Let's not
about?
argue about that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I do believe that I didn't even talk anything about nostalgia.
Well, no.
I don't know what you're even asking.
But you're saying that for a movie to be overrated, it has to be based purely on the scores. But
No,
I think
no.
Dylan is arguing that for a movie to be overrated, it can still have a cult following, a popular following, despite the scores, and still be overrated.
Oh, okay. So well, there's gonna be cults for anything.
Okay, so generally speaking, most people think that The Shining is one of the greatest horror movies of all time. I am countering that, and me with a lot of other people also think the same thing, which is why it won 2 Razzies: Worst Director and Worst Actress.
All right, let's compare The Shining.
Shelley Duvall's character was so annoying and deliberately stupid. Okay, you could have swore she was played by Kristen Stewart or some shit. Okay. Percy Jackson and the Olympians was a better movie adaptation than The Shining was, and let me tell you,
that's
that
insane.
movie was terrible. Okay, Jack Nicholson's character carried no development or progression. Okay, in the book, he was actually a pretty swell guy. All right, but he gradually became more insane. From the start of this movie, he was an asshole. To the end of the movie, he was an asshole. There was no progression there, and as a result, all the characters kind of received this downgrade of liveliness. Must I go back to little Danny's repetitive red rum scene? I mean, come on, that one was a special place in
You
hell.
want to talk
for me,
about
I
repetitive?
swear.
Talk about zooming in on a dark corner over and over like in The Babadook. Let's compare The Shining to The Babadook for 1 second. Both of them are acclaimed because of their slow descent into madness of the characters, but one actually has shit happen. And the one that has shit happen is The Shining. The Babadook has nothing happen. She chokes the dog and they look into a small corner for a very long time. And then they put the Babadook in the basement. You know what other horror movie ended with them becoming friends or whatever with a monster? Shaun of the Dead. That's what level it is. In fact, the Babadook was so bad that I almost thought about using it for the would be better as a horror film category. They had a T-Rex stock sound effect. When it zoomed in on the
Where
Babadook.
did they find a
Can you do that
T-Rex?
one more time?
Where did
Is there anything less scary you've ever heard in your damn life? All right.
Okay.
So what the Babadook and The Shining have is a character slowly descending into madness, but what The Shining has is actual stuff happening.
Not necessarily. It was all rather bland. Okay, take the iconic maze chase.
And don't get me
Take
started
for
on
the maze chase scene at the very end. Okay, such build up for like a slow letdown. So like our main
I
character
think the final scene of The Shining kind of ties it all. I mean, I know we're not talking about
ties
the
it all together.
It ties
it
all
doesn't.
together. And the
he
portrait,
sits down
because
and he
becomes
freezes to
part-
death. Okay, he
But
was
then the
he was
portrait-
crazy, but he was not crazy enough to take shelter inside. There was nothing wrong with him. There was nothing. He just sits down and then freezes.
Let me
to death.
Also, I don't think
it doesn't make
Paranormal
sense.
Activity has had enough love right now.
So
let's
the Paranormal
give some
Activity.
love.
You know what the
let's
director
give some love
of
to
Paranormal
Paranormal
Activity did? He took the conch from SpongeBob. It was like, oh, magic conch. What do I do now? Nothing.
Okay. Yeah, it's a bad movie. But
If it's okay.
That's amazing.
You say it's overrated, but it's got movie after movie after movie, which means people keep going to see it.
all right, wait, no. Here's what I'm saying.
So it's
the audience scale.
Transformers,
The audience
which is-
scale is 56% on Paranormal Activity. So that means only 56% of people like it. How is that? Even with your cult following argument, how is that enough people for it to be like a highly rated or highly credited film? Also, a lot of what is in Paranormal Activity involves actors, and the acting is actually really phenomenal in that. Sure, not a lot happens, but I do have to defend the acting in it.
It is highly rated.
And so it isn't that highly rated. So it's
I
within
mean,
one
Roger
standard
Ebert-
deviation of like movie rating.
But you see,
like,
it's so...
Wow, that went by really quick. I thought.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're gonna keep it at the middle with Dylan, but then go the opposite direction. So Dylan starts the conclusion.
Okay. So, I want to start off by saying, like, my argument against Paranormal Activity is that it keeps getting movies after movies. People go to watch it all the time. It's known as one of the horror movies, like modern horror movies that most people go and watch. I don't think it's overrated. As far as The Shining, okay, need I go back to the infamous red rum scene? If you listen really closely, you can almost hear Danny say the word red rum over and over and over again.
Okay, and Bodhi this time.
all right. Well, I think it's obvious that The Babadook was very, very boring. Say what you want about The Shining. Say what Paranormal was pretty boring too. I'm gonna give it to you, but I don't feel like it's as nearly as highly rated as The Babadook. So that makes like the difference between quality and rating a bigger gap. And that's what we're looking at. We're measuring the gap between quality and actual rating. And The Babadook was a boring, crummy movie. The Shining was amazing, and I loved every second of it. The red rum part I didn't think was repetitive at all. I thought it was creepy because some things that are creepy are repetitive.
Okay, and Mark.
Okay, I'm gonna say you could go see The Shining, which has excellent direction by Stanley Kubrick, iconic scenes, has remained a pop culture icon, and rightfully so, I believe. You could go see The Babadook, which from what I've read, I haven't actually seen the movie, so I don't even know if it's as overrated as you claim it is. But from what I claim, it's an original story. It's got great plot and character development. Or you could see Paranormal Activity, where somebody took their VHS recorder, shoved it into a movie theater, and made billions of dollars from it.
All right, and I think that's all we got. I don't, Vaughn, were there any facts that you need to check?
Yes, actually, yeah. So, as it turns out, the Babadook actually has a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's ridiculous.
You mentioned to Mark that the acting in Paranormal Activity was pretty good. Although the only award that I could find that it won for acting was at Screamfest.
Oh, you mean Bodhi mentioned that? I didn't mention that.
Yes, he did.
Okay.
And then also, Dylan, you mentioned that The Shining won 2 Razzies.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually nominated for those, but did not win.
Oh, okay.
Okay, one thing I do want to say
strange.
before I ask you
I say
guys
when?
is
Yes.
I actually know like about Stephen King actually thinks of this The Shining as the
Terrible.
worst adaptation that anyone's made of his books, but
Yeah.
I just noticed you said that, and it was something that is a fact, so I'm just throwing it out there as well. Thoughts? I'm actually kind of stuck on this one.
I mean, I didn't hear enough from Mark to consider like attacking or defending. Mark kind of stayed quiet, so it's really hard to gauge whether or not there's anything like he merits a first place. I honestly think is it? I'm sorry. I forget.
Oh, it's okay. Bodhi.
Bodhi. Thank you. I wasn't sure.
Don't
if you
ever
were
compare
Bodhi.
me to that movie.
No, I wasn't sure if it was Brody or Bodhi. I think Bodhi did the best job attacking and defending on this one. That's just my opinion.
Okay, yeah.
I would agree that Bodhi smashed that, but also, Mark, you kind of lost us when you told us that you haven't even seen the movie you're fighting against.
That's true.
So,
Yeah.
Don't tell us that next time.
Yes.
Yeah,
kinda
and I
caught
mean,
that
like another
myself.
thing
That's
too
like-
is like when you're doing that, just don't even mention it. And I mean, when you do throw it out there, I try not to put it against you, but it
it's
does
hard,
kind of
yes.
like it's
Yeah.
hard to.
I kind of, as soon as I said, I was like, why did you say that? Why did you say it?
Anything else, guys? Or I'm just kind of stuck on this because Dylan, you started at a low spot for me. Just because if you know me, I'm like a huge Stanley Kubrick fan, so I gave you the best luck you did, and when everything that you mentioned fill in the spot of being an overrated movie, and so for me, I'm like, gosh, he's kind of right, but like everything about like factually about this movie about what dictates it as overrated, you kind of nailed. So I'm trying to give you, you know, unbiased view from myself there. Bodhi, you did a great job as always. I mean, you're crushing it this game. I think I heard a lot against Dylan, but Dylan had the better rebuttals against other people. And so there wasn't enough, like, people threw out like other arguments to other people, and I didn't hear his rebuttals against that. But when people threw rebuttals against for Dylan, he was prepared to counter argue that. And therefore, that being said, I think Dylan prepared for this the most, took the biggest risk, and for that, I think he's got to get the first place point. So I'm going to award Dylan first, with Bodhi second, just because you did you had all the points right there for you, and then plus with the 98%, that even was higher than what you even anticipated, which proves your point even more. I personally have seen the Babadook. I thought it was actually okay, but maybe that just proves your point even more. So I'll give second place to Bodhi and third place to Mark. I mean, you had the best jokes of all of them, which normally would win a round, but
I'm not in this to win, Stuart. I'm in for the laughs.
Oh, come on, man. We are going into round 4. So I didn't say this in the beginning of the game, but I mentioned it in the email to you guys. Round 4 is double points. Now, I know I said double or nothing in like the last episode. Not double or nothing. You don't get nothing if you lose. It's just double points. So first place, instead of 3, you get 6. Instead of 2, you get 4 for second. And instead of 1, you get 2 for third. Does that all make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
Now, this one's very interesting and very interesting answers. Which movie would be better as a horror film? Now let's start with, I'll just say Mark and go this way.
Okay. Now, I picked Toy Story, and Toy Story is a great film to begin with, but it could be even so much better as a horror film, because that whole scene where, like, they're frightening Sid and all the toys are, like, coming after him, that was, like, my favorite scene. It's the scene that sticks in my head the most. I'm like, and if you stretch that into, like, a whole movie concept, because, like, what if instead of getting mad at Buzz for, you know, stealing Andy's love, what if he just gets mad at Andy? And what if he starts, you know, plotting with the other toys to take Andy down? I think it could go for a terrifying... I mean, and it's not new territory, per se. We've seen Chucky. But I think Toy Story would add an even more in-depth angle to this.
Okay, and let's do Dylan.
Okay, so imagine opening up a chocolate bar and finding that special golden ticket. And you venture off to visit Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. Oh, how wondrous it must feel. You proceed with the tour with an incredible inventor and innovator until you realize he is slowly killing off the other children in your group in gruesome, bloody manners. I argue that this movie is already a horror movie in disguise.
All right.
Disqualifies it.
And let's go to Bodhi.
All right, here's the scene. Lord Farquaad and the citizens are all trapped inside the castle courtyard. The fairy tales have had enough. We're not talking happy fairy tales. We're talking about baby eaters, such as Grumpelstiltskin, or grandma eaters, such as wolves, all angry, ready for vengeance. Just as everyone thinks hope is gone, they hear the ogre himself. He beats down the door. He beats down the door saying, "Onions have layers, and when you peel humans apart, humans have layers too." They finally take the ogre down. Everything seems to be going okay, but one by one, they keep getting destroyed by all these little fairy tales. Fairies going inside of people and combusting. Horrible, horrible, mangled deaths. No one knows if they should turn against Farquaad and join. But in the morning, nobody's making waffles.
Oh my lord. All right, let's start the forum.
You know, at first I thought you were mocking me, but then I realized you came prepared to say
No,
that.
no, I came prepared
So
for
then
that.
I
I
was
just
we
want
had
to
a
say,
similar
I'm
way
glad
of-
that when you said set scene, you didn't say like I was only 9 years old.
I was like,
It's
all over
so
now.
I'm glad you didn't go that direction
Oh
with
my
that.
God. Yeah.
This
All
is
right.
egregious. Okay,
Okay.
enough fun.
Okay, so Shrek as a horror movie. I mean, and I'm gonna kind of compare Shrek and Willy Wonka. It's like for a horror movie, I feel like your protagonist, to be a good horror movie, your protagonists, the people who are getting killed, have to be likable.
Come on, Chucky boy.
And I feel like Farquaad isn't likable. I feel like the people of Duloc aren't likable. And I feel like the kids in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory are likable. If I found out they were being killed, I'd be
Sid
like,
wasn't
thank
The main
you.
characters.
Thank
are-
you. I
Sid
wouldn't be
wasn't
scared.
likable.
The main characters
really
are
liked
Well,
Sid.
no, I'm not
citizens
saying
between
that Sid.
Farquaad.
I'm not saying that Sid should be.
Of course you
I'm
don't.
saying it's Andy though.
Didn't
I
listen
said
to me.
my argument that it should be Andy, and Andy is a
You don't really
likable
get to
kid.
know Andy.
But you will in my horror adaptation of Toy Story.
Okay, but I argue that you get to know the characters in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory a lot better than you get to know Andy.
Yeah, and then
or
you hate
Sid.
him for it. And then you.
Well, no.
It's
Here's
like-
my problem with the Chocolate Factory is that like. The only reason that is sticking out in our mind, the only reason it's a classic is because it's the one movie that they drop out one by one that's not a horror movie. The second you make that a horror movie, it's going to get washed down the sewage system with everything else. Like, so that one by one thing, yeah, it makes sense in a horror movie setting. But if you transformed that into a horror movie, I argue that it would be largely forgettable.
No, it wouldn't be, because there's already a movie adaptation that is similar to it, which is called the Saw franchise. Okay, he purposefully gets rid of nasty people that don't appreciate their life. All right, in a similar way, Willy Wonka is getting rid of kids that are spoiled brats. Okay, and
So we don't need another.
Yeah, exactly. So you're saying, okay,
Not necessarily.
replace the maniacal like machinery with chocolate, and that makes it scarier.
No, I agree. It's
No.
a funny concept, but it actually deteriorates the whole point of the movie. And that the only reason the movie is popular is because it isn't a horror movie. The second you add horror to that, it takes away the only thing that made it so magical and stuff like that. So it wouldn't be an improvement. It would be just catastrophic for the movie, to be
However,
honest.
we are asking what movie would be better as a horror film. Okay,
wouldn't be better.
I argue that it would be better. All right, the elements are already there. All right, creepy guy lures kids into his home with chocolate.
But as soon as
okay,
you do
and
it,
then
it works
and then
too
he
well.
and then he takes them out one by one through a furnace, drowning. All right, blowing one up. You know, and then shredding another. All right, and then it's the elements are all there. All right.
Yeah, that's the problem, because then
Yeah,
the elements
if
are
the
there, but you put it in a horror setting and the elements don't matter anymore because
Exactly.
they're
It just kind of blends in with the rest of the crowd. But I think, sorry, no, you don't want to let me talk again, because now I'm going to go back to Shrek. Shrek, I think it's
Imagine
like,
if I were an ogre right here, right now.
if
Would you be
put
telling me
I
this?
think this kind of puts it more. I think this puts it more in the fantasy genre than a horror genre, because I think one of the
Horror fantasy is the thing.
I mean, horror fantasy is a thing, but at the same
Evil
time,
Dead.
you're talking about like fairy tale creatures. Like it's like a siege. It's like a siege from Lord of the Rings, only with fairy tale creatures instead of orcs. It's ogres instead of orcs.
Have you ever been in a siege? That's scary.
Have you ever been in a siege? gotta pass it.
If I were an ogre right now,
But if
you'd be scared.
But he's right, because if that's the case, then the same argument can be made if you change Shrek into this horror film and it's similar to Lord of the Rings, then that's like changing Willy Wonka into the Jigsaw
but it's an
franchise,
actual new spin on things
which
that's
was
not been done.
which was a good point against mine. But it wouldn't be a spin-off because it's similar, just like Willy Wonka isn't the same as Jigsaw. It'd be like a spin-off.
The difference between your and mine argument is that you're saying Willy Wonka would be good because it already has horror elements. Shrek has no horror elements, so it
He-
could very
he
well
talks-
be better.
he
when
talks
put into
about
that.
eating
Also,
people.
Toy Story's not getting enough love. I'm sorry.
I was like, I was hoping we would know.
Okay, Toy Story is.
We've already had Chucky.
Toy
That's all,
Story
like-
We've already had.
was a fantastic. It was one of the
would be
first
depreciated.
breakthrough animated shows. All right, if you were to change that into some form of like what you saw like with Sausage Party,
It
all right,
made it so.
like I feel like animated movies would have a completely different effect on today's youth.
I just want to point
we
out
didn't
that
start
I
on
am
a
not
high
the
note.
first one to reimagine Toy Story. There is actually a YouTube trailer, Toy Story Reimagined, as a horror film that I recommend everybody should check out, because they kind of have a lot of the same ideas. Is that there's
Good in theory, maybe bad in practice. Because how long will that last? How long will that be good? Like 5 minutes into the movie, but about once you get 20 minutes of the movie, you're gonna be like, all right, this is Chucky again, or this is the scene with Sid where all the toys come back. It's already done in one scene, but imagine that scene. Okay.
All right, now let's start with Bodhi on that and with conclusions going this way.
This is my swamp now. all I really have to say is that you can put a lot of psychological terror but when you're stuck between a dick like Farquaad and a bunch of angry fairy tale creatures who are slowly picking you off one by one. And as I've said a few times already during the forum, if I were an ogre right now, I don't think you guys would be messing with me. No, but I'm just saying it is a very it could be very psychologically scary, and it could also show the dark side of fairy tales, because grim adventure fairy tales are, yeah, well, you got it.
All right, and Dylan.
Okay, so I think Shrek, it would become more of a comedy than a horror. You didn't argue your point very well. Toy Story, okay, Toy Story started off as a major kid-friendly show. Doing a complete 180 and changing it into a horror film, I don't think that would make it better, all right? Because Toy Story is one of the reasons why we like animation so much, because it was there at the beginning. It started the whole animation push, okay? So changing that into a horror film would completely change the direction that we've been taking today.
So Toy Story, for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and Shrek, the victims in those movies are not relatable victims, and therefore not consequential to the experience of the viewer. I feel Andy is a relatable character. How many times have we replaced a toy with another toy and not given two shakes about it? Toy Story, the original movie, taught us the error of our ways through love, through pity, but what if it taught us the error of our ways through fear? I mean, it relates to every single child at home and every single person who's ever been a child with a favorite toy.
Okay, just writing down some last stuff that you included. That was more like a pitch question, but Vaughn...
Yeah, there's nothing.
Right, I didn't think so.
Was Toy Story an actual
thoughts,
movie?
guys? This is kind of a hard one, too.
The arguments that they made against Bodhi's film, that it's more like Lord of the Rings, I think kind of killed it for me. I was struggling anyways to kind of see how Shrek could be turned into a horror film based on the way he approached it.
I agree with that.
Dylan was winning it for me until they pointed out that his movie is that turning it into a horror movie is basically the Saw franchise.
I was the one who made that. I killed it.
You kind of shot yourself in the foot.
Yeah.
And even pointing out that Mark's argument was a good argument against you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I never acknowledge that your opponent has made a good argument. And I think with the fact that Mark, he didn't have a whole lot of attacks thrown at him. The attacks he had, he rebutted well. And the fact that he's pointed out that this does have fans that have reimagined this already as a horror film stands out to me very well. And
I think I probably agree more with your points in the previous rounds on this one, because I kind of agree on that. But yeah, Allison.
Oh, I didn't like that you said it's already been reimagined on YouTube. I want something that you imagined yourself.
Okay.
I think
well, I mean, one thing I don't want to turn this into a debate backstage, guys. But no, I understand where it's like, if that's where you get inspiration for what might be a good. Because I remember when you said Toy Story, I thought of the movie Small Soldiers, which was more so like an action film, but it kind of goes along with that theme. And I mean, that's not going to take away from your point, but it's like where you get inspiration to think of that from. Just like Willy Wonka, I mean, there's always been that subtle voice in the background that says this could be a scary movie, where you got the inspiration from that. So it might not be completely your own idea, but like I said, doesn't take away from arguments. But yeah, I kind of what I'm saying. But I mean,
my vote's on Dylan.
See, I think Dylan had good points, but every point that came back at him completely took down all his ideas. So I feel like it canceled out what he was arguing.
Mark's was the strongest here. I would give it to Mark without thinking about it.
All right, Vaughn, what do you think?
Allison's point that she made about fan theories already existing about reimagined as a horror movie. I feel like the same thing could be applied to Willy Wonka, because I've seen things on the internet that say basically the exact same thing.
I mean, really, we could say the same thing for Shrek though too.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah.
It's
So,
like one big meme. There's no way.
but like that's the thing though. It's like therefore it's like if we try to apply that, then that's just all one big argument deducting.
Right.
We don't really get
So-
anywhere.
So that considered, I think that Mark had the strongest argument.
I agree with that. I think overall, I think Mark, you had the least arguments against yourselves, and the ones that you did, you rebutted very well. Because I think when you did say, "All right, let's turn it on Mark now," you mentioned the Chucky thing, which you already said, but this would be a different imagination of that, and it would be better. And so you almost had him. You should have stuck more, Bodhi, about how long would this last? Because the sausage party argument about like how long is this going to be funny or scary for until it gets old, and that was an argument that was sort of tipping Mark to like not first place, but I didn't get enough of that argument, and he was defending it well. Therefore, I got to give Mark first place. Now, the LOTR argument against yours did pretty much kill it in terms of like it does turn that into that type of thing, and plus on top of his argument where none of your characters are really relatable and likable. So I would, like he said, I would laugh if Farquaad was getting like ripped out by Shrek or something. You know what I mean? So it's that kind of both of those arguments down to yours. So I got to give, and plus Dylan had pretty good arguments for yours as well. With the Saw franchise, that was kind of him like boosting his own up because you said, well, that's like it would take away from that, so it would kind of get old right away. And it's like, well, it's already happened before with the Saw franchise. So you were bringing that up as a point to support yours. So
I had a different mindset.
Something's funny. Something's
like whenever
no.
okay.
What? Okay.
Just the track
Whatever.
that
I
things
didn't
are
think of
going
it.
on, it's going to be very interesting.
What?
I think I know what you guys are talking about.
We are currently at a three-way
Yeah,
tie.
it's going to end up
Wait.
in a tie.
Really? Oh crap. Dang. I need to come up with a whole new speed round on the fly then. Because the speed round question that I came up with was like a double, was like a 2 option. So I need to come up.
Do you want me to think of one for you?
No, I'm going to come up with one really quickly. Wow, is that really a 3-way tie?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oops.
Okay.
It was bound to
But
happen.
I mean, like, I thought overall, I mean, the ruling was, I mean, that's just kind of like where I kind of was going
Yeah,
along
yeah.
with. So I,
I mean,
Let's
you're not
do it.
wrong.
oh my gosh. Okay.
I'm
is
putting
where
on
we-
my business face.
Hold on, guys.
This
Let
is
me
where
think
we
of
say
a
good
real
game.
quick speed round.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Do we want a 3-way victory? Or do we
I'm
wanna do
gonna
something
I'm gonna
crazy?
throw it out there.
Let's actually fight each other.
I'm just gonna throw this out there as a idea, and whether it's a good one or not, since I mean, if you guys go ahead and answer it, we're just gonna roll with it. So, this is our official speed round. Are you guys ready? I'm gonna.
Oh, yeah.
Here's how it's gonna work. I'm gonna say a question.
Yep.
And this will be multi-option. Okay, and we'll make it like this or this. It'll be anything. You guys will have to shout out like the answer that first comes to your head, and that means you get dibs to that. So if I say like best superhero film, and it really it'd be between 2 of you, but it's going to be between 3 of you. So it's going to be like if I say best superhero film, you'd be like Iron Man, and then you'd be like Captain America, and be like Avengers. So if it's like if Dylan wanted to say Iron Man, but he said it first, he can't argue that. Does that make sense? So when you say an answer first, you get dibs on that. Makes sense? Now, in terms of how the arguments go, you get 30 seconds for conclusion, which we're just going to go mark this way. And then you'll get a 15-second rebuttal, which will do that repeat. Does that make sense? We'll do it between all 3 of you. I'll try to judge the best between all 3 of you for that. So are you guys ready? Understand how it's going to go?
Aye, Captain.
Okay. So the speedrun question I just thought on the fly. We're going to go with it, whether it's good or not. Best horror franchise.
Saw.
Evil Dead.
Taking my sweet time. I'm going to say Friday the 13th.
Okay, so that was actually because my original question was which franchise is better, Halloween or Friday the 13th, because they're similar. So I got Dylan with Saw, Bodhi with Evil Dead, and Mark with Friday the 13th. And was that like a good on the fly question? Okay. All right. So we are going to start with Mark going this way. Friday the 13th.
Okay, Friday the 13th combines the best elements of Saw and Evil Dead because it combines jump scares and gore. Saw is just kind of a gore horror where it kind of, you get numb to it for a while. It's not even like scary, it's just disgusting. Where Friday the 13th, you've got an active killer who's pursuing an active goal throughout the entire franchise. He can't be killed, which is terrifying. when you consider the implications of immortality and all that stuff. So he keeps coming back for more. And the chainsaw, the hockey mask are immediately iconic. And then there's a real...
Okay, 30 seconds, Dylan.
Okay, so the Saw franchise, all right, is not just blood and gore. If you watch the entire series, you'll see there's a lot of intelligent thought. Like, it's well thought out. There's a lot of special like actions taking place like behind scenes. You have to figure out. Even though it's got that horror, bloody aspect to it, there is also a thought process that you have to utilize while watching the entire thing. So it becomes very enjoyable while watching it, which is why it's very successful and there were so many movies.
Okay, and Bodhi, 30 seconds.
All right. Evil Dead also doesn't put too much emphasis on gore or jump scares. There's a little bit of both. There's actually quite a bit of both. It has that little strange mysticism of like this ancient evil that no one knows where it came from and these innocent people in the cabin. It does a very good job of making the characters seem helpless against the villain, and you have that feel of helplessness and dread set in. But then later in the franchise, the characters start to fight back, and because they set it up so that like this was an unbeatable evil, it feels so kick-ass when they finally turn it around in the third movie.
All right, 15 seconds, Mark.
Okay, so in my mind, the best idea for a horror franchise is the ability to instill fear. Saw doesn't even instill fear; it just instills disgust and fatigue. I mean, it's great that you can think about it, but it doesn't instill fear with me. Evil Dead is the same. It's the zombie cliche.
Okay, and Dylan, 15 seconds.
Evil Dead was very cliche, and at times it was actually kind of funny. Friday the 13th, after a while, became a little boring. All right, there was nothing to keep the story going.
Okay, and 15 seconds, Bodhi.
Friday the 13th was very repetitive in that every kill was almost the same, and it's just a very cliche kind of movie. Meanwhile, like, what was yours?
Saw.
Saw? Yeah, that just sucks. Like, there's nothing going on there. Like,
just cutting to the chase, right? Just
That's not an argument.
Okay.
I didn't have much time.
Yeah, 3 seconds.
This isn't built for a three-way tie.
No, this really isn't. So, oh man. Okay. I think I have a winner, but I want to hear feedback from all you guys.
My opinion is I gotta give it to Mark on this one.
Okay. Other guys' opinions?
Next time we have a three-way tie, let's give them 30 seconds
Agreed.
to rebuttal.
Yeah.
30 seconds to rebuttal
1
and
and
30-second
30.
argument? Or
Yeah.
like, okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Just because they have 2 points to argue now.
That's
rather than
very
just-
true.
Yeah.
Now it's like, thought of that. We've never had three-way ties before, even in test runs, so.
Maybe we'll get more
Alright.
content, then that just sucks.
Yep.
That just...
I didn't hear enough. I didn't. Granted, it's 15 seconds, but Dylan didn't give enough, in my opinion, to defend the fact that they both pointed out that Saw is nothing but a gore party.
I kind of agree with that. It was like there wasn't very good arguments against the gore factor. You said, well, it's not just a gore factor, and then you went on to explain why it was a good horror film. Not much of rebutting of why it wasn't just a gore factor.
But I did rebuttal. It wasn't just a gore factor. It was the intelligent factor.
Right, and I heard that, but it didn't really do enough for me in terms of flipping that around on that. So
Okay.
does that make sense? Like,
Bodhi, I would say the same thing happened with him. That's why I'm giving it to Mark. Because both Mark and Dylan jumped on that Bodhi's is cliche, and he did give a good.
one thing I wanted you to say, Bodhi, because I watched this last week and I thought to myself, yeah, this is so cliche, and I was watching with a friend, like, but it created the cliches.
Yeah, exactly.
But you didn't say that. And so because of that, I can't use that. I know. That's the hard part. That's the hard part about speed rounds is like trying to figure out which argument like you need to put out and which is pick your battles. But yeah, that was the one thing I was waiting for you to say, and it didn't come out. So
I mean, it's still
I didn't
made
talk-
pretty good arguments. He got
Yeah.
the most arguments in for his character.
that's true. You did get the most you got the most arguments against the other players in terms of repetitive cliche and just sucks. I mean, like,
That's
but you.
not an argument.
It's not an argument, but
Use that.
but he added on to the gore factor in what Mark said, and so I thought
actually
that.
the gore factor was the only thing said against mine.
But there,
And
like,
he said there were
Oh wait,
other aspects
are we
to
still
it
allowed to
that
talk?
were-
Because we're still allowed to talk.
no, not, you're actually not allowed to talk. But
Okay, so Yeah, and I defended it. In the amount of time that I had, the only way I could defend that was talking about the intelligent factor. I couldn't go into detail about, like transcending the horror into intelligent. Like I just gave why there was another reason for
Yeah,
watching.
we gotta cut this pretty quick. I think Bodhi had the most in terms of adding towards his. In terms of his had both jump scares and gore, with the mystery of the evil, and then when it turned around where the characters could fight back, it upped the movie as a whole. And then when you added, it was a repetitive and it had cliches in Friday the 13th. I think that Dylan, I understood with the intelligent argument, try to counter the gore factor. Very enjoyable. It's just with Mark's arguments supporting Jason as a villain, put his over the edge because it said that Friday the 13th as a whole was scarier because of Jason, like, and what he did and all the characteristics, and he gave me more on that. So I got to give Bodhi first, Mark second, Dylan third, which means I think that's the actual placement. So, but you guys all did very, very well. You had very great answers, and you all defended them and argued them very, very well. So thank you all for being on the show. I think this is like one of the best out of all the three that we've had.
Top three.
Personally, like I think it's one of the best shows we've had. You guys are amazing. You're such great fighters. Thank you, Vaughn, for checking facts. Good fight, right? Yeah. All right, good fight, guys. I thought it was pretty awesome. Thanks, Morgan, for keeping time and score, or whoever did some. Doing both. Just a quick plug. If you really enjoyed this, come watch our other episodes before this. We have 2 episodes before, like where we will discuss things like best Netflix original, best Leonardo DiCaprio movie, and so many more. Join us in 2 weeks for our next episode. And I believe that's it. Thanks for coming. Bye.